Now, most Americans think of Labor Day as the unofficial end of summer or a day off work, maybe cookouts or a sale at the mall if you have one of those still in your town. But that's not how Labor Day started. It came out of a recognition of the inherent dignity owed to every human at birth. So today I want to explore a question that our country in all of its modern progressive splendor somehow still can't answer. What is the value of a man? In 1876, workers in New York City formed the Central Labor Union, which was one of the first real federations of trade unions in America. You had carpenters, printers, mechanists, men who were working 12 to 14 hours a day, 6 days a week, and often still barely scraping by despite the dangerous conditions. So to make a long story short, the CLU brought them together to push for shorter hours, safer conditions, and fair pay. And by the early 1880s, they started organizing massive parades with tens of thousands of people marching through the streets, demanding recognition for their labor. And these marches would go on to be known as the first Labor Day celebrations. In 1884, the Knights of Labor adopted a resolution that would set the first Monday in September to be considered Labor Day, which we still celebrate today. Now, as increased urbanization undermined communal living and materialism was becoming a new virtue of the American ethos, in 1891, the church put words to what those workers crushed under the weight of this new wave of industrialization had been living out. Pope Leo XIII issued Rerum Novarum declaring that labor's not a mere commodity, but the work of a person created in the image of God. He wrote that it is neither just nor human, so to grind men down with excessive labor as to stupefy their minds and wear out their bodies. And that's exactly what these men were fighting, the right to defend their dignity as human beings created in the image of God. Now let's jump ahead to 1893. The Pullman Company outside of Chicago built luxury rail cars, and their workers lived in a company town, so their houses, their stores, everything. When a depression hit later that year, George Pullman slashed the wages but kept rents and prices in the stores high. So families were trapped with their paychecks shrinking, while the company still took out the same cut for profits. Sound familiar? The following year, workers struck and the American Railway Union completely backed them at its height with 125,000 men walking out across 27 states. This, of course, was a huge problem for the economy because it froze rail traffic, and the federal government responded not with mediation, but with force. President Grover Cleveland sent in 12,000 federal troops, and the clashes left 25 workers killed and hundreds injured. Now here's the irony. Just 6 days after the strike collapsed, Cleveland rushed a bill through Congress making Labor Day a federal holiday to honor the brave workers who fought for their rights, and it was not at all a politically calculated appeasement to calm public anger or paper over the violence. Now, for some more modern context, we're going to fast forward a couple more decades to 1919, where a case came that still shapes the way that corporations think and shapes the lives of almost half of the American workforce. Dodge versus the Ford Motor Company. Now, Henry Ford had a very revolutionary idea at the time. Instead of paying out dividends to shareholders, he wanted to take those profits and reinvest it into workers' wages and cut the price of cars so that more families could afford them. The Dodge brothers, who were shareholders in the Ford Company, sued him, and the Michigan Supreme Court ruled in their favor. They said that you could not prioritize workers or consumers over shareholders, and a corporation exists primarily to maximize shareholder profit. This decision enshrined what we called shareholder primacy, and for a century, it's been the legal foundation for all of American corporate life. What's the result of this? Human beings are secondary. Families are secondary. The community is secondary, and profit always comes first. Now let's compare this to Catholic social teaching. Pope Leo XIII said that work is for man, not man for work. Pope Pius XI, in his encyclical Quadragesimo Anno, condemned what he called the international imperialism of money, and Saint Pope John Paul II in Laborem Exercens said the key to the whole social question is the dignity of the worker. Of course, the Catechism itself says that the economy must serve people and not the other way around. So that's about as clear as it gets. Catholic social teaching is extremely consistent, that profit is legitimate, but it is never absolute. When the pursuit of profit tramples human dignity, it crosses into idolatry. And that's exactly what we see in both the Pullman Strike and the Dodge versus Ford case. Profit enthroned as a false god, and human beings sacrificed at its altar. Sadly, we haven't really solved any of this. Workers are still striking, and families are still crushed under low wages and long hours. Politicians on the left wave the union banner when it's convenient, but they'll just as quickly sell out workers to big donors, and politicians on the right will treat the free market with more reverence than the magisterium. The Catholic vision for America is completely different. It's not socialism, which denies private property, and it's not capitalism without restraint, which denies justice to workers. The Church insists on a much more difficult path: solidarity between classes, subsidiary to protect communities, and a just wage that allows for a man to provide for his family and keep Sunday as a day of rest. While it's great to have an extra day off to spend with family and friends, it doesn't do us any good to continually be appeased by these hollow bureaucratic gestures. So we need to demand the recognition that every worker is a child of God. Every family deserves the security of a just wage, and no shareholder, no politician, no government official is worth more than a single human soul. As always, I am curious to know what y'all think, so leave me a comment down below. And I, again, hope that you have a truly restful Labor Day. Until next time, peace be with you.